Hi everyone, welcome back to another video, and in this week's video I'm going to give you more details on what I feed my Schoutedeni Puffer George, and also how this little fella ensured that I got another aquarium within the house. So as with all my fish, I feed them a varied diet, and this guy gets just as much variety as any other fish that I keep. He generally gets like frozen foods, we've got bloodworm, krill, those like frozen cubes that you can buy. Also, I sometimes give him a little bit of mussel here and there and a little bit of prawn. He will eat anything, he absolutely loves it. As you've seen before, he's an absolute gannet and he'll just eat. He's always coming in here, welcoming me, curious to see what I've got to bring him in terms of his food. So pufferfish are one of the more intelligent fish that you can get, and they can actually start to recognise their owners and start to recognise this person gives me food, so I'm going to pay this guy some attention and hopefully I'll get some food in return. And that's exactly what he does. And me and George, our relationship's fairly new. We haven't been together that long, a few weeks now, but we're already starting to get to know each other. I'm loving him, and I think he's loving me, I think. Just look at him chasing my finger. He's like, where's the food? Give me the food. All puffers have what we call like a beak, and it has like a bit of a tooth, and it grows just like our fingernails will grow. And in the wild, what will happen is they'll eat like crabs and snails and crustaceans and mussels and all of that, but within their clams, and it has to break them open. So naturally their tooth, their beak, it gets filed down. So once we get them from the wild and put them in our home aquariums, it's our responsibility to ensure that we give them a diet that helps them file that beak down, that tooth down, because what happens otherwise is that beak will just grow and grow and grow and actually become really uncomfortable and possibly prevent the puffer from eating. Prevents him from eating, they end up dying. So it's essential that we provide the right diet. Now, naturally, the frozen cubes and what have you, as he tries to pick at them and what have you, that will help. And the Schoutedeni puffer is one of the better puffers to kind of maintain that tooth. But what's recommended is that you actually add snails to the diet. Adding snails to the diet means that you provide them with the food that they have to break through the shell, they have to file their own tooth down, and hey presto, it's managed. So when I picked up this guy, when I decided to buy him and get him from the store, I asked them, do you have any pest snails that I could have? They said, yeah, sure, no problem, and they got me a really, really good bag full of pest snails. And to them it's pest snails, to me I'm seeing it as food for my new fish. Now these pest snails, I think I got pretty lucky. They're like trumpet snails. I think they're Malaysian trumpet snails, but they're definitely some form of trumpet snail. The problem I have is that if I just got my trumpet snails, added them to this aquarium, George here, he would just chomp through them. He will eat them, or just for fun, if he was full, kill them. Meaning that my snail colony that I just purchased from the shop, just got from the shop, is now depleted. There's nothing left, meaning I have to go back to the shop and again say, have you got any more pest snails I could take off your hands? And that becomes a little bit tedious. So what's recommended is that we actually provide another aquarium or another tank of some sort to grow our own snail colony. So you've guessed it already, that's what I did. I wasted no time. I had a small tank lying around from years ago. It's been empty from, I can't even count the number of years. It's been empty for ages. So I filled it up, bought some substrate for it. Online I got a really cheap filter, a really cheap heater, all for my new nano tank. And all because of this guy. I also added a fish in there, but let's go inside and I'll show you that aquarium as it's currently set up. Oh yeah, have you noticed? I got my own jumper! Have you noticed? I've got my own jumper. Look at it. Geophilus fish keeping, my emblem. I'm buzzing, absolutely buzzing. And there's a t-shirt to go with it as well. These currently are not available, it is just mine. However, if you would have access to these, or potentially have access to these, or you have an interest in potentially purchasing one of these, let me know in the comment section below, and it's something that I can look into and get available for you guys out there. And here it is. Now as the light's going down in here, you can start to see that all these snails are starting to come up the glass. It's this time of day when they start to come out at night, and it's when they're most active as well. But this setup is ideal for what I wanted it for. It's ideal for the snails, and it's really cheap to set up, cheap to run, easy to run, quick to maintain. And although he's cowering towards the back right now, I've actually also got a lovely male Siamese Fighter Fish. Betta fish, I don't really know how to say it. It's a bit of an argument discussing different ways of saying it. I just stick to Siamese Fighter. Now the aquarium itself, you can probably pick one up really easily, really cheaply. But you can pick these up, from your pets at home, and probably as a bit of a kit really for relatively cheap. You're talking £15–20 and you get a bit of a kit. Now I didn't buy the kit. I had just the tank, so I had to go and buy the substrate myself, and also the heater and the filter to go in there. You have to forgive me a little bit in here. The plants at the moment are a little bit overgrown and kind of need taming down a little bit. That's just a sign of, you know, how easy it is to maintain some live plants in this small aquarium. I don't know if you can see on camera, but here he is now. He's starting to be a little bit intrigued on what's going on. The purpose of the aquarium is to obviously have a colony of snails so I can constantly feed George, the Schoutedeni Puffer. I don't need to keep fish in this aquarium for the snails to grow, as long as the snails are getting a source of food, but having a fish in there obviously helps that, and it also makes the aquarium have a bit more purpose, and it's a little bit added extra. In there at the moment I've got various types of, no, not various types, but various sizes of snails. I've got the adult snails, or generally up here. I've got medium-sized snails, I've got tiny baby snails hanging out on the moss ball there. I keep a 1 litre jug by the aquarium, so it's very easy whenever I'm passing through, take a jug out, put a jug back in. Simple as that for in terms of a water change, or a couple of times a week, 2 or 3 jugs out, 2 or 3 jugs back in. In terms of feeding, I just drop in this Tetra betta complete food for all betas. It's quite good. It includes shrimps and krill just dried, and it's just like a flake food, and he seems to love it. So in the description below, what I'll do is I'll put in the items that I've purchased really cheaply to be able to maintain this tank, and one of those is the high-dom aquarium heater. It's only 25 watt, but it does the job, and it's more than enough for this aquarium. And you can slightly see it at the back there. It comes with suction cups. It just sits at the back, and the plants kind of hide it. In terms of filtration, I've just got this betta mini internal aquarium filter. It's 150 litres per hour, which means that it's turning over an aquarium of this size 10 times an hour easily. So obviously that's really good for that water quality. Turn it over. And in terms of the sponge, it's just a tiny little sponge. When doing one of those water changes, take a jug of water out, and actually you can just squeeze the sponge in that jug of water before disposing of the water, and then putting the sponge back in place. That means it will keep its bacteria that is on the sponge, and it will obviously cleanse it to make sure it's keeping on top of that water control, water quality. The one thing I like about this aquarium filter is that it also comes with a spray bar. It's a tiny little spray bar, but it spits out the water and keeps that water surface agitation, which I've spoken about in previous videos. Helps oxygenate the water as it makes those ripples on the top added oxygen. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get a handful of these snails, and I'm going to take them out to George and see if he takes any of them. So that was my nano tank. So it's gone from last week's video showing you my biggest aquarium with my monster fish to this week's video showing you my smallest aquarium for my nano fish. But as I've already said, the whole purpose behind that aquarium is for this guy here. So he has his own snail colony constantly on the go, breeding, basically making him a food source. Now I do apologise for the quality of the footage of that aquarium. I know you couldn't really see the fish itself or the aquarium that great, just purely because the time that I filmed it, the lights were going out, he was starting to get sleepy, the snails were starting to come out, and I didn't have the best lighting there, so I apologise for that, but I will try and get some better footage. Or if you follow me on Instagram, I'll put some photos of that aquarium and that fish on there in the next couple of days. So here are some of the snails that I got from the tank. So if you have a closer look at them, I say hopefully you can see that. They are some form of trumpet snails, I believe Malaysian trumpet snails, and they are fantastic snails for pretty much any aquarium, particularly for this reason, because what happens is, as I've already said, during the day they tend to go into the substrate, they tend to hide a lot, and then during the night time they start to come out, and that's when you see them at night time. But if you don't want to see them, you don't need to see them because it is night time, the lights are off and what have you. So what I'm going to do is the very first time I'm offering him snails as a form of his diet whilst he's been with me. So let's see what he does, let's see if he knows that it's food, let's see how he reacts, and let's see if he'll hand feed with them as well. He's over here waiting as if he knows some food's about to come. Here he's coming. He's clearly a bit tentative. You can see my fingers, he knows he's not there, and obviously he is a wild caught Schoutedeni Puffer, so he's probably not too keen on the fingers being in the tank, but curiosity is probably getting the better of him. I ended up dropping it and he's chasing down for it. Okay, so we grabbed onto it with his beak. He was swimming around with it like an ice cream cone out of his mouth. He definitely knew it was food, he definitely associated it as something he can eat. He just needs to get used to it. Maybe the first time he's ever had something like that. I know the aquarium that I got him from, the fish shop that I got him from, I know they were feeding him bloodworm and what have you. he's down at the bottom having an interest and a play around with those that he either dropped or he didn't catch in the first place. Worst case scenario here is that he doesn't actually eat them at all, because that would just mean one of two things. The snails will breed within this aquarium and I'll have probably a pest problem within here. They'll just get out of control. It's a much bigger aquarium. Do apologise for some of these plants down here. I do need replacing. I am playing around with plants. They are growing back. They've been killed off in the last day or two, or eaten off in the last day or two by my plecos, so I do apologise for that. But yeah, I don't want a pest problem within this aquarium, so hopefully he'll take to them, hopefully he will eat them, hopefully he will realise that it is a food source and it'll help him out. To see his progress in terms of eating these snails and how his diet on snails progresses, again, you don't want to miss out on that, so make sure you subscribe. If you know the actual name or can confirm the name of those snails that I showed you on camera, please put that in the comment section below to help the other viewers to make sure that they can request the right sort of snails. Sorry, I just love watching this guy as he glides around the tank, swims around the tank. He really is a special fish. I absolutely adore him, and as you already know, I cannot recommend him enough. So if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please make sure that you share it, hit that like button and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Thanks for watching, appreciate the support. Put any comments in the section below. See you again soon. Don't forget about the jumper.